Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is the Ignorant Intellectual, the bridge between the hood and the ivory tower. Black brilliance, formal education, not required. I want to pause and say thank you for all of the views on my most recent video. Please check that out. It is where I'm talking about being black, non-binary, 45 years old, and perimenopausal. And I want to extend that conversation today in this video. How perimenopause differs for queer, non-binary, and black people. Yes, I'm female. Yes, I have a uterus. Yes, I have ovaries. Yes, I have a menstrual cycle. Yes, I visit the OBGYN. Yes, I'm affected by the same physiological changes as straight cisgender women. But perimenopause for people like me, black, non-binary, queer, gender expansive, can bring some unique experiences and challenges that might differ a little bit from my cisgender heterosexual comrades in this perimenopausal journey. Let's talk about it. This first point that I'm about to make, I probably will make this point across all of the examples I'm gonna use. As a non-binary and gender expansive person, sometimes I gotta situate myself inside of heteronormative spaces that's not designed for non-binary people and kind of find what applies to me as I see fit. I have to listen to the experiences of cisgender and heterosexual women and kind of swim around and find the things that apply to me as a non-binary gender expansive person. I don't only have to do this about perimenopause. I find myself having to situate myself inside of spaces that's not designed for me, but that kind of relate to me, and then swimming around and figure out what does apply to me. So it's not just about perimenopause, but I'm probably gonna make this statement apply to the multiple experiences that I'm gonna talk about in this video. The first thing I want to talk about is kind of navigating gendered expectations and language. Now, personally, I identify as female, not to be confused with a female. I'm also a girl. The way I describe myself is that I'm a girl who didn't grow up to be a woman. A lot of the conversations about perimenopause are highly gendered. They're gendered towards cisgender women. Although, thanks to spaces like the Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause, we know that not just cisgender women experience menopause. They have named it the multiverse. Thank you again for that concept. I thanked y'all in the last video, but thank you again. So a lot of these conversations about perimenopause are highly gendered, and you can feel alienated if you don't really navigate those spaces. And it's also taxing to have to spend time inside of spaces and then trying to swim around and find what works for you, and navigating and mental and emotional and all of this kind of stuff. So it can be alienating. It can be difficult around the gendered language, around the gendering of products, around the gendering of even cultural and media imagery. Like, personally, I don't feel connected to the term women's health, but I know that when I am seeking out healthcare services, I'm going to be seeking out women's healthcare services or women's health. So although I feel disconnected from the term, I know that that's where I should opt in. Although just because I don't feel connected to the term women's health, I know that it is describing the physiological changes that I'm seeking services for. On the other hand, cisgender women don't have to do those mental gymnastics. They identify as women, they see women's health, and they're like, ding, 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 that's for me. Now, I'm not going to say cisgender women identify fully with every facet of the things that are named women's health. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that there is an extra layer of jumping through hoops that non-binary, gender expansive people have to navigate in seeking services. So typically cisgender women, they find things that are directly catered to them, verbalized toward them, communities and resources that directly validate their experiences, things like that. Number 2, access to inclusive healthcare. So not only am I non-binary and gender expansive, I'm also black. So I'm trying to navigate this healthcare system currently in 2024 as a Medicaid patient. So I've had both private insurance and now I'm on Medicaid. Medicaid is a newer experience for me. And I find myself pissed off a lot. Yep. Medicaid puts a lot of the burden of navigating the system on the patient in ways that private insurance just does not. From having to fax documents in 2024 to having to get paper referrals to bring with you to places like your mammogram appointment. My breast imaging center literally turns people away if they don't have a paper referral from their physician.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Unless somehow the physician remembered to email it, they do not have a system set in place for electronic transfers of referrals from your PCP to the breast imaging center to say, yes, please do this mammogram in 2024.
Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Providers being surprised that I am educated and I ask certain questions in appointments. And it's like, are you surprised because I'm black? Are you surprised because I'm a Medicaid patient? And as a black person that's non-binary with all these existences and identities, yeah, it's hard sometimes to try to peel apart which one is surprising you today. So is it that you're not used to such informed patients? And there is discrimination a lot of interpersonal biases that come up that I've experienced as a Medicaid patient. It's wild. It is wild to witness. Private insurances is far from perfect, but there are some hurdles that you simply do not have to jump over in private insurance. Then when we talk about the non-binary piece, honey, I have not engaged in more interpersonal bias than having a beard and boobs. I mean, sometimes it is more overt than the race thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Story time. Well, a couple of months ago, I had a breast cancer scare. Excuse me. Hopefully you're enjoying the video, but I would like to pause it to say that I'm on the road to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. It's my goal to become monetized on YouTube. So if you would please subscribe to the channel and like the video, that would be so helpful for me. All right, back to the video. I went in for my annual mammogram because I don't play those games. I do not play games about my health. I'm going to run up Medicaid. I'm going in for the appointments on time every year, every 6 months, everything. So I went in for my annual mammogram and they thought they saw something. And so, that already is like, oh, Jesus. So I had the mammogram, the boob squish, but then I had to go and have a ultrasound, which is with the probe and the warm jelly and all that. So it's already a vulnerable position. You already laid up in a vulnerable position. Your arm is up, your boob is hanging out. So the radiology tech comes in and she's preparing to do the ultrasound thing on my boob. And again, titty hanging out. Like, ma'am. So she goes, she was just looking. I said, is everything okay? She said, out of her mouth, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out this beard and these tattoos, and I'm just trying to figure it all out. Titty hanging out on the table by myself in the room, and now I'm dealing with you and your ignorant ass comments. I'm just trying to figure out this beard and these tattoos. And I literally had no patience in me because I already was stressed now because I got to go from the mammogram and they telling me they saw something on the mammogram and now I got to come over here. I'm already stressed. So out of my mouth, I said, Miss, I don't care about none of that. I need you to do this ultrasound. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. My son has tattoos too. I said, Miss, I don't care about your son. I need you to do this ultrasound. So that wasn't necessary, because she was black. So that wasn't necessarily a racialized thing. That was deeply around gender identity and me trying to navigate these damn healthcare systems. Ma'am, I might have cancer in my right breast. Can we get on with this so I can figure this shit out? And I'm on Medicaid, not the best place in the world to want to have breast cancer. Anyway, I say all that to say, I don't have breast cancer. I had to go through another mammogram after that. Then I had to actually have a biopsy. And after all that was said and done, no breast cancer. But it's just an example of how gender identity and interpersonal bias from provider to patient really do be having us out here as non-binary people and as queer people and gender expansive people navigating healthcare systems that are not very kind. She should have kept that shit to herself. Let's talk about number 3, cultural and community support. So when I think about this, I'm thinking a lot of the traditional support groups and like online resources for perimenopausal people, they are not tailored to the experiences of non-binary, gender expansive, queer people. They are very much so tailored to the experiences of cisgender heterosexual people. And another huge dynamic that is connected to that is cisgender heterosexual mothers, married or partnered with heterosexual men. So a lot of the conversations, even around them experiencing perimenopause, is in relation often to like sex or no sex with their husbands, or how they can show up for their children. So it's often a springboard of them and a partner, or them and children. And I am not saying that non-binary people have not parented or given birth, but what I am saying is within that whole thing, non-binary people don't exist inside of a cisgender heterosexual partnership or parenthood in that way. So a lot of times the online support groups, the forums, even the in-person groups that you may meet up with, it's a lot of moms, a lot of parents, a lot of women folk who are straight and in heterosexual partnerships. And so you may offer your perspective, and it's rare that they can actually respond or meet you really on an astute level, because it's more so when you say something they learning, so they can't really respond to you outside of like, wow, that is not okay. It's not like they're responding with informative feedback. They're responding in surprise. So community and cultural support around a queer and non-binary person experiencing menopause is not given. It's not given. And a lot of people say, well, you should know that because you know that perimenopause is something that women experience. Didn't I just say there's a menopausal and a perimenopausal multiverse? And that women are not the only people who experience perimenopause? Now, we want to pull the curtain back and say female people experience menopause. Some would disagree. But if we want to pull back the curtain and say female people experience menopause or perimenopause, that's another conversation. But only women? Nah, player. I just said I'm a girl that didn't grow up to be a woman who is in perimenopause. So clearly. So that goes back to the whole thing where I say I often find myself in spaces and have to swim around to find the places and things that apply to me. Like I told y'all, the hormone harmony, that in my last video, I love it, but it is catered to cisgender heterosexual women experiencing menopause. But it is an example of something that, while it's not centering me, it is a benefit to me and it aligns with where I am. Therefore, I use it. So the bottom line is that often I choose to remain in certain spaces to try to find the things that are a benefit to me, that apply to me because of the shared physiological experience, although the gender identity experience is not shared. Because as a black, queer, non-binary person, so there's already the cumulative stress of managing intersecting identities already that can exacerbate perimenopausal symptoms already, off rip. But I am still trying to find community around the conversation of perimenopause, although I have a lot of lesbian friends. Why? Because as a non-binary person, my experience with menopause are not the same as my lesbian friends' experiences with perimenopause. Why? Because my lesbian friends are cisgender women. They're not straight cisgender women, but their gender identity is very much so aligned with their birth assigned sex. So they don't be looking for spaces. They may look for spaces that's not straight, but they're not looking, those conversations they may have an easier time with. But I don't see very much representation around non-binary people and gender expansive people experiencing perimenopause, which goes into my fifth example, which is representation. And that is a big one. It's still limited. It's still very heteronormative. So creating or joining spaces that openly address these issues in an inclusive and an expansive way is rare. Now, if you're somebody who says, well, if it don't exist, create it, please. I don't want to. I don't have time to. I have a whole career. Now, these evolving YouTube videos around my journey with perimenopause is what I have capacity for. How about you create it and then invite me over sometimes? Anyway, so that's the video. Those are some of the experiences I feel that differ for non-binary and gender expansive people experiencing perimenopause. It might mean advocating for yourself more strongly in healthcare and community settings. It might mean like finding alternative spaces. But it's probably gonna mean you're gonna have to forge a very individual approach. You're gonna have to forge a very individual approach. But I'm talking about it because I know that opening up dialogue definitely can foster more dialogue. Y'all was dropping comments. I think that's the most comments I ever had in a YouTube video on my last video about being 45, perimenopausal, and the journey. Y'all was dropping comments left and right. So in this video, I want y'all to drop more comments, more specified topics you might want to hear me talk about within this perimenopause dynamic. So drop your questions, drop your comments, drop your thoughts, all of that good stuff. And remember, you don't have to agree with me, but at least know why you think what you think. Peace.